And boys and girls, do you know who knows better than us? God knows better than us. A lot of times we think that we don't need to follow the instructions. We say, oh yeah, I love God, but he doesn't really know the best way. He doesn't know what we should do. Maybe we don't think God knows. When God says, children, obey your parents, well, man, it sounds good and all, but I don't know if God follow that. I love God, but I don't necessarily want to do everything he says. That's what we're saying. But in reality, boys and girls, Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And why? Do you think God wants us to keep his commandments because he wants to hold us under his thumb? He wants to oppress us? Do you think God wants us to keep his commandments because he's trying to be mean? Huh? Y'all can answer. All right. Do you think God's trying to be mean? Do you think God's doing it just so he can show that he's God? And how, you're just a little person? No. Why do you think God wants us to keep his commandments? Because he loves us and he knows what's good for us. He knows what can turn out for our best. He knows that if you give, it'll be given back to you. He's not trying to take your money, but God is trying to allow you to be blessed. God knows that if you follow his instructions, and your life will be so much better. That's why he says, man, keep my commandments. If we say we love him, and we need to do that. I want to tell you all a story, boys and girls. There was a young girl. She was about 6 years old. And she had, for her birthday, gotten some plastic pearls. A girl. She was 6. Plastic pearls. You know, those pearls that girls wear around their neck sometimes. Did any of y'all girls ever had some of those play pearls that you wear? Right? Or like it's a necklace made out of pearls. Now listen. So she had these, and they were her favorite possession. Hey, Jude, come sit up here, buddy. Thank you. They were her favorite possession. She wore them every single day, and every single night. She even wore them to bed. And every night, her dad would tuck her in. He'd pray with her, give her a kiss goodnight, and go to bed. Well, one night, the dad came to the girl. She's wearing this pearl necklace around her neck. He said, baby, he prayed for her. He said, do you love me? And she said, Daddy, you know that I love you. He said, well, this is what I want you to do. She said, anything, Daddy. He said, give me your pearls. Let me have them. And the girl said, but Daddy, anything but my pearls, they're my favorite. She said, I'll give you my teddy bear. He said, no, that's all right, baby. Good night. He kissed her good night, and he went to bed. The next night, the dad tucked her in, prayed for her, and said, baby, do you love me? She said, Daddy, you know that I love you. He said, will you do something for me? She said, anything, Daddy. He said, give me your pearls. She said, oh, Daddy, not my pearls. That's my favorite. I'll give you my Barbie. He said, that's all right. He gave her a kiss goodnight, and he went to bed. The next night, he tucked her in. He prayed for her. He said, baby, do you love me? She said, well, Daddy, you know that I love you. He said, well, do something for me. She said, Daddy, anything. He said, give me your pearls. I want them. And she said, Daddy, anything but my pearls. Anything. Here, take my toy cars. He said, that's all right. Good night, baby. He kissed her and he went to bed. Finally, on the fourth night, he came into her. He prayed with her. He tucked her in. He said, baby, do you love me? She said, Daddy, you know I love you. He said, well, do something for me. She said, Daddy, anything. He said, give me your pearls. So she started crying. She said, okay, Daddy. She took the pearls off. She handed him the pearls. Her favorite thing in the world. Then out of his pocket, guess what? He pulled out some real pearls. And he put it around her neck. He said, I have this for you. I've had it for you the whole time. I just needed you to give me your pearls so I could give you my real ones. You see, boys and girls, a lot of times we think that God wants to get something from us, or maybe he doesn't know what's best for us. A lot of times we want to do what we want to do. We don't want to follow God's commandments all the time. Why? It's not always easy. Just like it wasn't easy for that girl to give up the pearls, it's not always easy for us to be obedient to our parents, or it's not always easy for us to love other people. It's not always easy to do God's commandments, right? God said, if you love me, follow my commandments. Why? Not so he can get something from us. Not so he can keep us down. Not so he can make our lives no fun. But just like that father in the story wanted to give his daughter something much more valuable. God wants us to get something much more valuable. God wants us to have an amazing life. But we have to be willing to follow him. And when he says, do you love me? And we say yes, we have to be willing to obey his commandments. We have to be willing to do what he wants from us, boys and girls. And you know, sometimes it's not easy. It's not always easy to walk in love with your friends, with your neighbors, with your brothers and sisters. It's not always easy to be obedient to your parents. It's not always easy to give your tithes and your offerings. Sometimes you want to hold on to that $1 or that $2 or that $5. I want to buy something from the snack bar. I want to buy a new toy, or I want to buy a new video game. I got to hold on to everything I can, but God's saying, no. If you love me, give. But boys and girls, he's not trying to get something from you. God knows that if you're obedient to his commandments, that he can bless you. Until that girl in the story was willing to give up her stuff, Macy. Until she was willing to give up what she thought was the best thing. She couldn't get what was really the best. Boys and girls, until we're willing to be obedient to God in everything, then we can't get everything that God has for us. We can't get everything that God wants for us. You know, boys and girls, we don't always know the way to get shiny and clean. We don't always know the way to go from being this dirty penny to this shiny penny. We don't always know the way. How many of y'all think that this one is much better looking? Right? This one is much prettier of a penny. This one is kind of dirty. It's kind of old looking. Sometimes we think we know how to get from this to this. But the truth is, boys and girls, only God knows how to get us from this to this. Only God. And the only way that we can get there is by following his instructions. The only way that we can get there is by being obedient to him. That's the only way we can go from dirty to shiny. From ugly to pretty. From old to new. That's the only way, by following God's instructions. I want everybody to bow your heads, close your eyes real quick.